Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and whoever or whatever you identify as. Welcome back to the Shadow Dread. Welcome to another video. Right then, another review I thought I'd share with you on the Sea Devils. And this was produced on Monday by James Whitbrook for the site, magazine, whatever, called Gizmodo. And it's his review on Sunday's episode that we know is just been shit, and you know how I actually feel about it. Check out my review. It's a spicy one, it's a long one, but boy, it needed to be said. Any case, let's see what James here had to say about the Sea Devils thing. Right then, Doctor Who managed to make a high seas adventure as dull as dishwater. Legend of the Sea Devils was Jodie Whittaker's penultimate adventure of the Doctor, thank fuck for that, but went out with all the energy of a damp squib. Excellent. Doctor Who has had a bit of an exhaustion lately, thanks to a schedule more dictated by the chaos of the past 2 years than of its own particular volition. Disagree with... Oh yes, it was and it isn't. They dragged this out. I mean, they've dragged the whole thing out so she can be the longest Doctor or some pointless shit. Between Flux, which was a pile of shit, and the special episodes closing out Jodie Whittaker's time as a Doctor, we've been taught to expect big things, exciting things, because this is all the Doctor Who you're going to get for months at a time. So what happens when the excitement forgets to show up? Good question. Shall we find out what he says? That's kind of what Legends of the Sea Devils is. An episode of Doctor Who that perhaps be a perfectly fine adventure in a full screen season of the show, rather than being sold as the next big special. I don't even... Well, actually, to be fair, I kind of agree with him. It would have fitted in with the Flux perfectly, because that was a steaming pile of shite as it was. But in any case, you know, the sort of backbone every season of Who is built on. An aggressively fine story you watch once and then forget about entirely because of so much more exciting things going on elsewhere in that chunk of episodes, until you revisit that season and forget it all over again. I've practically forgotten quite a lot of it already, and I think a lot of people have. In fact, a lot of people now really wish they could forget it. It's got all the makings of something fun. The return of a classic monster in the Sea Devils, which of course 50 years after their debut, a cool historic setting in the form of the seas around the 19th century China, and perhaps arguably the most important of all, pirate ships! 2 pirate ships, one of which is flying, and is substantially full of Sea Devils, who, having a flying ship, use swords! And yet, none of it really works beyond the cursory idea that it was ultimately an episode of television that got made. There's little build-up or tension around the Sea Devils that dampens, their threat. They appear, they say they want to take over the world to the Doctor, and then they just kind of sit there waiting until they're stopped. I mean, there is that bit where she's running around the ship and they all just don't do anything. They don't make any attempt to stop her, they just let her do what she's doing. That's what he's referring to, no doubt. They're great looking monsters. Perhaps one of the best in Who's recent history in terms of redesigning a familiar look. Have to agree there. They did look good, but as I said, the sea things from Stingray were better. But not particularly monstrous. So there's little of that classic fear outside a short, sharp dose at the start of the episode. The tiny smattering of guest characters, Crystal Yu and Arthur Lee as the piratical Madam Ching, who they didn't touch in any way, shape or form, and Jin Hu was probably the best acting, but also the funniest Chinese man speaking with a North London accent, but it doesn't matter, respectively. And Marlo Chi Chan as the excitable young villager Yang Ki, who loses his family in the first Sea Devil attack because Madam Ching causes it, and then loves Madam Ching. Yeah, because that'd happen in real life, wouldn't it? Don't get much in the way of background or even base motivation beyond awkwardly delivering exposition that is largely left untouched. Exactly. But then again, that's a classic Chibnall thing. We have all these ideas, we mention something, and then everybody just forgets that it was ever mentioned and make no reference to it. But then 3 or 4 episodes long down the line, we'll drag it up, pretend it was all part of the big master plan. We didn't have a fucking clue, really, has he? Yin Ki wants vengeance until he doesn't. Madam Ching wants to pay off the debts holding her children hostage, gets the goods to do that. Jin Hu wants to die because the Sea Devils have kept him in suspended animation for a few hundred years, and that's rude of them. Everything about Legends of the Sea Devil feels like that, perfunctory. The lack of real tension means that you never really care about the Sea Devils and their threat. Exactly, and that is what happens when, using Chris Chibnall's own words, you shoehorn in a creature because you haven't got one. And it showed. Like a lot of these things, pushed in and it showed. The lack of time with Ching, Ji-hun and Yin Ki mean that beyond their initial motivations, you don't get to see them go on satisfying arcs. Nothing in this era ever goes on a satisfying arc. They'll pretend there's an arc, they'll try and make out that one exists, but there never is. There never has been, and there never will be. You Thasmin lovers out there. It's not going to happen. By the time everything's meant to crescendo in the third act, it feels like the audience is counting down the clock. Yep, because by the time you got there, you're that bored shitless you couldn't give a shit what happens. And then when it does come on, it's like, oh, is that it? Ugh. And everything putters out beyond all emotional resolution for the Doctor and her friends. More on that later. It's also not hard to feel the constraints of shooting an episode like this in the height of mid-pandemic safety production rules, because what doesn't help Legend of the Sea Devils is the lack of energy of how empty it feels. But as I said, they could have made a CGI crew. They weren't spending any money. They got these 3 specials. They weren't spending any money on the series. They could have done it. They did it for the Sea Devils. Why not the human crew? For wide open shots of empty boat decks to awkward transitions to avoid showing how the Doctors and friends leap from one ship to the next. And that's because they had to blur it, because if you do pause it, quite clearly, it stunt people. Ah, dear me. Everything about the Legend feels somehow even more limited than Doctor Who usually does. The primary craft beyond the Doctor and her friends is small, and that's about it for actual people in the episode who aren't covered in layers of Sea Devil prosthetics. And even then, there's not many of them at any time, so the scenes just feel bereft. Well, yeah, but they did, like some of the shots, CGI, they could have done a lot more. There's no real stake to what the Sea Devils want to do outside their initial village attack, so it's hard to care about, well, the thing Doctor Who is about. The Doctor racing to stop monsters from their evil plans. Haven't had that for a long time, have we? Because what we normally do is we go beep, 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 with our sonic tricorder, problem solved. Because we've run out of time to actually bring the story to a proper conclusion, so we'll just rush it and make it look shit. Which is literally every single episode of this entire run with Chibnall and Whittaker in charge. And it's not like a Doctor Who can't do cheap feeling small stake bottle episodes for style adventures. It's Doctor Who literally about 60% that has been for nearly 60 years. Very true. Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who, very small sets, very enclosed things, limited amount of people, limited, even more limited budget than this has had. Yeah. And it was great. Not all of it, and we all know not all of them were brilliant, but there were good ones, and it was done on a tighter budget than this. Hell, the last episode of the show that was just that. Eve of the Daleks was a story that played to the strengths of the obvious limitations, a tight time loop tale that could unfold on a limited number of sets and a limited amount of cast that could be in a room together given the length of time and purpose. Exactly like Doctor Who had. Unfortunately, the Eve of the Daleks was just shit. But and the viewing figures again showed that. It's given us a chance to actually care not just about the Doctor, Yaz and Dan, but the characters introduced because it knew it was all it had. Exactly, that's what Doctor Who's best at. Legend of the Sea Devils wanted to be a big, sweeping, high seas adventure, but it just wasn't. And trundled along, hoping for the best anyway. It's telling when the trailer for the next episode at the end had more excitement in it than anything Legend itself. Yes, absolutely true. Aside from the humdrum nature of the adventure itself through Legend, got one thing right. Thanks to its guest stars largely existing to give Dan someone to talk to now and then, its actual strength comes in giving Doctor and Yaz time to be other. Right, I'm not going to go on about the Yaz being shit, and that's why I'm going to ignore what was said here because it was crap. it was a dick tease. It was a pull to get all these Phasmin lovers in and give them something and then end them giving them nothing. Which is why I'm not going to read the last bit, because we've covered that, and then we'll ignore that. Right, so I've ignored the Phasmin bit. If you want to watch it, go into Gizmodo and have a look yourself. It's stuff I'm not going to talk about because it's just bullshit. But we know further heartbreak is on the way for the 13th Doctor now. Her final days, yay! With a battle full of old friends and older enemies to end this current era of Doctor Who. As befitting the show about time travel, it's always the future that's the most exciting and full of potential. Even if Doctor Who had to trade quite a bit of excitement in the present to set the stage for it. I disagree with that. They should have set up the next one. And instead, we had Yaz and the Doctor doing a scene from Highlander on the beach, moaning about the fact they couldn't love each other, which was never going to happen, was never in the makeup of the show, until they suddenly decided to appease what Twitter wanted. Sad, really, isn't it? But there you go. I mean, there's another review that just said it was as dull as dishwater. Obviously, people have to be a little bit more polite on the social media than I do, but I'm trying to tone it down. The last rant was good enough, I think. It's sort of mellowed me down a bit and got quite a lot of shit off my chest. But there you go. So and you know, it's how the thing has changed, how the media were all busy bigging it up and attacking people like me and everybody else who didn't really like this. Not because it's a woman, but because of the way it's written, the way it's not the show, the way she isn't the Doctor. Any way, shape or form, she's not the Doctor. At all. She shows nothing but self-interest. She's got no compassion. She doesn't give a shit about anyone. She doesn't care about her companions except Yaz, but that's been force-fed in. It's just, she's not the Doctor. Unfortunately, we've only got one left. Now I know somebody, they talk about the final one. I have no hopes for it. I think, by judging by what they've got and what they've thrown in at it, I don't think it's going to be very good at all. Although, I have to agree with Noel and some other people that the clip where they're putting their hands up shouting Yaz, that isn't the regeneration. Don't think it is. I have to agree with that. Now I've looked back at it, I don't think it is either. The regeneration is because she had a picture of her up there, in the famous orange suit that I don't give a fuck about in any case. But that would make logical sense to regenerate the new Doctor in that suit. Completely neutral. But we'll have to wait and see, won't we? I'm sure more information will trickle out. And of course, talking of information, of course, before I bring this one to a close, apparently, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be told who the new Doctor is. That will be interesting because, as I've said before, whoever becomes the next Doctor will start to indicate how the show may be going, in what direction we may be going. And whether or not, let's be honest, this has already been done. I don't think it has, but at least we'll know. How will they do the regeneration? I reckon it'll be, she'll go into regeneration, throw her arms out, the old head back like they do with the things, and then it'll cut. And then the next one could even start, not from that point, but from somewhere else. It'd be interesting to see how they're going to tie it together. If they are even going to tie it together at all. They might just decide to crack on and ignore that crap that's just happened. We'll find out. We don't know. But apparently Russell T Davies has great plans. We'll have to wait and see. Again, I'm hoping, like many other Whovians, although I'm not a Whovian, sorry, you Whovians, I'm not really a Whovian. Doctor Who's my third favourite thing. Although, Star Wars and Star Trek are above that. And look how they destroyed those series for me. Any case, so we can hope and pray that Russell T Davies comes back with the right intentions, good intentions, and does something amazing. And it's going to have to be amazing. It really is. And with that, I'm going to bring this one to a close. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and share it. It'd be much appreciated if you did. If you want to see some more videos like this, or you enjoy what I do on my channel, then hit the subscribe button. But as everything else, it's up to you. You do whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just an old fat bloke in his shed, surrounded by toys. What the hell do I know? And with that, and as always, and until the next one, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thanks so much for watching.